I don't ever go to Google anymore. I actually can't remember the last time I used Google. I go straight to ChatGPT for searching things up because I actually like the answers it gives.
There is a shift that's happening where people are going from Google searches and even scrolling on social media to going straight to these large language models to find answers. What I'm more interested in is the experts out there who have built a body of work and they really want to make sure is not invisible. A lot of industries are seeing a drop in website traffic because of AI's influence on how people's habits have changed. People are looking for website, it's answers they're looking for.
Welcome to today's episode of Business Growth Lab. I'm Samantha Riley and I am very excited to welcome Amy Yamada back to the show. We've spoken multiple times. I just love hanging out with her. And today we're going to talk about AI discoverability. And when Amy and I caught up last week and started talking about this, she blew my mind. She is the person to chat to. So, Amy, welcome to the show again. It's great to have you back.
Thanks for having me back. It's always delightful to have these conversations with you and to connect with your amazing audience. So thank you.
Now, you have been on the show before. We'll link up those episodes in the show notes because I don't want to go into any backstories today. This is such a huge topic. I want to dive straight in. You were talking to me last week about AI discoverability, and I've got to be honest, it's a topic that I know not very much about. I actually consider myself fairly techy, but this one feels like it's just moving so fast and I kind of can't keep up with it. I know that pretty much all I know is that you need some AI schema on your website and that is it. And I have been through one of your GPTs and I realized that is not all there is to know about that. And that's probably just like one little tiny piece. So I would love to dive into this topic with you. And I would love to have this conversation today. Like we're all fifth graders because I think that there are so many techie people that talk about this topic and it goes over people's heads, and you're really good at breaking it down. So, why don't we start off with what is this is super basic, but what is AI discoverability? When we're talking about that, what does it mean and what does it mean for us as business owners?
Oh, great question. And I love the request for kind of simplifying it because I myself love simplifying things, even for myself to really understand it because things are moving so quickly. So I'm right there with you. So when I think of AI discoverability, I think about how most websites content that are like the content that's within the website or the content that's out there about the company or the expert is actually invisible to the AI models. So even if somebody has built a large body of work, maybe they have a podcast, a YouTube channel, a book, a blog, success stories, a lot of it is not visible to these AI models like ChatGPT, Claude, Perplexity, and Gemini. And so AI discoverability is all about having your content and your online presence to have three things: clarity, consistency, and structured data. And so when you have those three boxes checked, then the AI models are able to see your information, see your content, understand that you are an expert in your field or that your company is who it says it is. And that way it knows when to reference you or when to recommend or surface you as a source or an answer.
How is this different to SEO and writing for Google? Like what's the difference? Why and this
Yeah.
might be the wrong question, so I'll let you do what you need to do with it. But if we're SEO optimized and Google can read it, why can't AI pick it up or can it?
Yeah, great question. And a lot of people, just so you know, when I share with them about AI discoverability and GEO, generative engine optimization, they often say, "Oh, so this is like SEO for AI." And I can see where that connection is made in our brains because
Uh-huh.
it seems similar. But SEO is really focused on keywords and rankings,
Mm-hmm.
whereas AI visibility is all about semantics and patterns and structured data. So it's not that they're completely not connected. And if somebody has their SEO dialed in, that's great. And the world is shifting. People are shifting from going to Google to ask
Mm-hmm.
questions. They're going over to ChatGPT and Claude and these other LLMs to get answers. So there is a difference, and part of it is it's not just about ranking anymore. You know, like when somebody goes to Google, or at least in the past, I know even Google has AI answers now as
Yeah.
their top response. When people go to Google, they might be asking a question for a recommended website, and then it gets the answers and then it leaves Google to go to that website. Whereas in these large language models, oftentimes people have lengthy conversations and they don't
Mhm.
necessarily leave the AI model to go to a website. So
Mm,
what I've been educating entrepreneurs about is to shift their way of thinking from like traffic and conversion to really becoming an authority that is visible to these AI models so that you become seen as the go-to person, the go-to expert, the go-to entrepreneur in business for these very specific questions that humans are asking these models.
mm. Okay, my brain is going in about 50 different directions right now, but I'm going to take one little thread that you just gave there because what I've noticed is I don't ever go to Google anymore. I actually can't remember the last time I used Google. I go straight to, I actually still do use ChatGPT for searching things up because I actually like the answers it gives for searching certain things better than Claude, even though I mostly use Claude. So, my question is are you as an expert in this area seeing that a lot of people are also acting like that, or are we early adopters and that's our like the way that we're doing things? Are you seeing people moving away from looking at websites? Like, what are you seeing right now?
Yeah, there is a shift that's happening where people are going from Google searches and even scrolling on social media to going straight to these large language models to find, not necessarily to find websites, but to find answers,
Mm,
solutions, have lengthy conversations, sometimes looking for recommendations. I was just talking to this guy who was saying, "Oh yeah, I know my mom was looking for restaurants when she was traveling somewhere, and so
yeah.
for sure you can still use it like that. But what I'm more interested in it is the experts out there, the experts who have built a body of work, who are authorities in their field, and they have these, YouTube channels and podcasts, and they really want to make sure that the work that they have built, this meaningful body of work that they've built, is not invisible to these AI
Mm,
models.
mm,
So again, that's kind of a long-winded answer, but yes, that people are definitely shifting, and I can't say this for certain across all industries, but a lot of industries are seeing a drop in website traffic because of AI's influence on how people's habits have changed. So even HubSpot recently shared an article about how even their own clients, so they were kind of calling themselves out a little bit, saying there's been a significant drop in website traffic. And so in this article, they were also sharing a solution that they're working on for AI discoverability. And I think it's smart
mm,
for them to be working on that because anyone who's building websites or, marketing agencies, PR agencies, I can't imagine not at least being aware of the shift happening because our clients are looking to us, for those of us who are experts in this area, to be aware of the shift that's happening and making sure that they are set up for success. One of my clients recently came to me because her website is on this one platform that I helped her to create schema. So I wasn't building a website for her, but I was helping her to create the schema, this formatted code so that AI can see it, at least getting her started, right? And so she sent this schema code to the web developer platform, and they said, "Oh, unfortunately, we have limited capabilities and we can't put it on the back end of our site." And I said, put me in touch with them right away because they absolutely need to shift something in their capability to be able to at least add schema to the back end of their site.
yeah.
So this formatted code is really important. What we've built is on a whole different kind of depth of a level because we're obsessed with this, but yeah, the shift is definitely happening, whether we like it or not. I know change is hard, but it kind of reminds me of when the business world was shifting from yellow pages and decks, these books,
Mm-hmm.
large books with phone numbers and addresses, to this thing called the internet and people being able to search for you, right? So we're in another transition like that now, with people still having just like a focused SEO mindset and trying to wrap their heads around AI if they're even thinking about it in terms of where their future clients will find them, but not in the same way. These people are having conversations. So what we're committed to is having experts information, businesses information, like influence the answers that AI is giving to humans and becoming the go-to authority that AI can understand. Like, this is who I want to recommend because the trust signals are there, the relevance is
Mm-hmm.
there, and I want to give the human the absolute best answer.
I love that so much. Now, I went through one of your amazing GPTs, the AI website audit, and we're going to talk a little bit about that later. But one of the things that it picked up was how on my homepage there's multiple different things. So it picked up that my messaging was absolutely spot on and it was consistent through the whole page. And I was like, yay, this is great. But then it goes on to say, but then there's like your Instagram feed and there's a podcast and there's, this, and people can book a call. And I'm thinking, well, yeah, because that's what we do on homepages. So can you talk to me about why it's picking this up and what is going to change? Does that make
Yeah.
sense? Because I may not have even asked it very well.
That's okay. I get a sense of what you're saying. So it is reflecting back. So this tool, the website audit GPT, and I'm happy to share it with your audience as a free tool. It's reflecting back how AI currently sees your website. So right now, if you don't have the specific format or structured data on the back end, then it still can see a lot of what's on the front-facing, human-facing website. However, AI wants things to be organized in a certain way. So it wants your home page to be organized in a certain way. It wants your about page to be organized a certain way, and your services or offers, and each of them having its own distinct page. So initially, I was teaching my clients about how to update their front-facing websites to be optimized for GEO. So everyone's like, oh, great. Now I have to change everything.
Yeah, here we go
And
again. The website that never gets finished.
right? One more thing on my plate that I do not have time for. And I get it. It's a big overhaul if you're, even if the content is there, but now it has to be reorganized, reformatted, and super annoying, just to be totally transparent. So what my partner Ken and I decided to do was to think about how can we make this easy for those experts who are super established, they have their offers, they've got their message, they've got their clarity, they've got some kind of body of work as far as content goes. So, my secret sauce is that we have created a parallel website that is for the AI models to see. And the reason why we did this is because we know that these are busy experts and their websites are often really well done for humans. So, we are building a parallel website that sits on a subdomain that is for the AI models to see. And
Mm,
that way, we have structured it not only to have this like the structure that AI wants to see from a human facing standpoint, but it's really broken down into entities, which are like micro pieces of content. So, for
mhm.
example, you have a podcast. Now, right now, if you post your podcast, even if you have show notes, even if you have a transcription, AI can see it, but it can't fully grasp everything that is broken down into it. So, what we're doing is we're transcribing everything, then we're pulling out these entities, these micro pieces of content, and then we're categorizing them and linking them to every other place that you have mentioned it, where it's come up in a success story, where it shows up as a framework in a success story or in your programs. So there's this back end linking so that the semantics are there and the connection is there. So ultimately, we're creating thousands and thousands of kind of nodes. And that means that there are so many ways that AI can come into your world and answer questions that are found in these little nodes, in these micro pieces of content, and then how they're all connected back up to you and what you offer. I hope that makes sense.
Well, I get it makes sense to me because I've seen it. And the way that I would describe what I've seen is my old primary school library, where we used to have these little drawers that had all of the little cards on them, that had all the little numbers.
Yeah.
Think the Dewey Decimal System, if I
Yeah.
remember correctly. And
Yeah.
and you'd go through all the little cards and you'd find the number, and then you have to match up and go in the library and go down the aisles and find the number, and then that's the book you're looking for. That's to me how I would describe what I've seen this site is. It's not a pretty site, but it has the most incredible amount of information broken down. It actually blew my mind. I remember when you showed me, I was just speechless for quite a while, wasn't I? I was like,
Yes.
where did all this information come from?
Yeah, and what I love about it is that it's not AI generated content like a lot of content that's out there. Not that that's wrong, but it's actually breaking down the expert's authentic voice, their philosophies, their case studies, their testimonials, if they've been featured in the media. All of these are considered entities from AI's perspective. And so when we break it down into the exact way that AI wants to see it, then it's more likely to recognize your business as the authority or the go-to for this very solution that you offer. So it's Another way that I like to describe it is these AI models have access to a global knowledge graph. Now, each model is trained differently, and we don't have all the insights on exactly how that all works. That's kind of their proprietary information. But what we do know is that it's looking for information that's broken down in this way, right? So it's just important to recognize that the three things I always come back to when it comes to AI discoverability is clarity, consistency, and structured data. A lot of people have clarity and consistency, but they don't have any structured
Hmm.
data. And so that's why we've broken it down in this way so that the AI models can see it and then see you as a trusted source.
Mm. So if our website's version 1.0 and what you're doing, I was going to say version 2.0, I think it's almost version 4.0. Is there a version like 1.2 where people who aren't in that expert, that thought leader position and work with you to get their, what do you call your fancy website?
Call it a discovery hub, a
There we
discovery hub.
go, Discovery Hub. Oh, that's so perfect. Is there a way to, or some of the things that we need to organize on our current website if we don't have, if we're not in the position that we want to build a Discovery Hub?
Yes. So in that case, I know this is annoying, but I would update the structure of your current website. Like that was my first step was, okay, well, why don't I just optimize my human facing website to be
Uh-huh.
optimized for GEO, then add the schema code on the back end of each of these pages, which is easier than we think. So if anyone just checked out in that moment, I will tell you how to do that. And then start working on content in a way that aligns with you. So start a blog or a podcast or a YouTube channel if you don't already have one, or I know a book is a bigger project, but something where you're amplifying your body of work in some way. And I know sometimes people ask me about social media. The thing is, we can't scrape social media because it's under this authentication, and so it's a little bit harder. So I'd say pick one of these other platforms to start growing your body of work. But to bring it all the way back, the way I would simplify this is I would use Claude. I mean, I would use Claude Code, but even if you just use Claude and just ask it, I want to update my website. I would start with copy first, right? I would want to update my website so it is optimized for GEO and AI discoverability. Give me the framework to make that happen. Something
Mm-hmm.
like that, right?
Yep, yep.
And it will come back with, and I'm saying this just so everyone can just do this in their own time, but the things that it'll come back with is it will mainly talk about your homepage, about page, and service or services pages, because each of those then become kind of a home for your anchor entities, right?
Mm-hmm.
So homepage becomes your anchor entity, kind of your anchor page for the organization of your business. So it has a little bit of everything on that homepage, but it's really about, okay, this is a business and this is how it's organized. And then your about page is what AI thinks of as your person entity. So this is either you as a personal brand or you as the founder or you as the face of the company. So that way it's information about you. So it's recognizing you as a person. It's also recognizing you as the author of this blog, author of this book, the host of this YouTube channel. So it's identifying you as a person and how you're relevant to these other components of your business. And then your service page or pages, it wants to see like these other services or products or whatever it is that you offer. And if you have a page that names multiple services, that's okay briefly, but then you want to link each of them to their own unique page. So they
Mm-hmm.
can see each page as here's one, so maybe somebody has a membership and then they have a high ticket group program and then they have, an AI tool, whatever. I'm just making this up, but it wants to see each one. So it's really a way to organize everything first in a way that AI can see it and recognize it. And then you can put schema code. I know that word code freaks us out, even schema, be like, what is that? You know what? Just ask AI to create it for you.
Yeah.
I'm not a coder by nature. Like I don't have a background in coding or any of that. I always joke around that AI secretly stands for ask it. So just
Ah.
say, great, can you write my schema code for my homepage?
Mm-hmm.
And it'll just write it for you. It'll just create this kind of, it looks a little bit gibberishy, but then when you look at each line, you'll start to notice
Mm.
certain words and phrases that do make sense, that are legible. And then once it's created it, then I would ask it, I would say, how would you rate this schema? Is it effective? And then somebody will say, oh, well, this schema is a 7 out of 10. I'm like, why would it not give me a 10 out of 10?
Yeah,
But usually,
right?
right? Like, why would you not do your best, AI? Come on, dude.
Yeah.
But it's usually because it doesn't have like it wants to have like for your about page, for example, it wants to have a link to a headshot of you, maybe a bio, or if this is where you can put social media links because it has this same as format where it says, this is the same Samantha Riley that has this specific Instagram, this specific LinkedIn, this specific Facebook. So that's where you are showing consistency of this is a person and they also have these platforms so that you don't get confused as another Samantha Riley. I
Hmm.
always, if you ever ask Claude or ChatGPT, who is Amy Yamada? Two of us will come up. One of them is me. The other
Uh-huh.
one, the well-known, super famous Japanese trashy romance novelist. She is not me, and I'm sure she's great.
That's so
So
funny
I want to
because
make
there's
sure.
two Samantha Rileys as well. I come up and also an Australian Olympic swimmer. And to be honest, I'm very jealous that she's been in the Olympics and I have not. And I also can't swim, so I was never going to get there.
At least you've got someone who has a very, I mean, not that the other Amy Mata isn't respectful. I'm sure she is in her own way, but I just want to make sure that the wires are not crossed for me. So it is important to have the same as format in your schema. So again, you don't have to know how to code. You don't have to know any of that. You just need to know how to prompt Claude or ChatGPT to write it for you, have it rate it. And then if it asks specific questions, or you can say, how can I make this at least a 9 out of 10? Then it'll say, oh, we just need a link to your headshot and links to any of your social media. Then you give it to it. Then it rewrites the schema. And then if you don't know what to do with it, it's really a copy and paste into, like a header on the back end of your page.
Hmm.
But you just ask it, give me instructions on how to put this on the back end of my page. Now,
Mm-hmm.
I do know that there are some website templates, like I was mentioning before, that they're not set up for that. So if that's the case, I would switch where I'm hosting my website because, or where I have it built because they need to keep up with the times for sure. Like website
100%.
platform absolutely need to be like if anyone's watching this who's a web developer or like I am highly encouraging you if you don't already have things set up to be able to add schema code on the back end. And I'm not just talking about a plugin with like basic schema. I'm talking about proper schema with the linking and everything. Then update your stuff. Like
Yeah.
somehow, some way figure it out. Use Claude Code. Claude Code will just do it for you probably.
Yeah.
But this is just whether we like it or not, this is the way the world is going. So
100%. And it's going there really, really, really fast.
can we just talk about that for a moment? Too fast.
Yes. Yeah.
I'm even in that world and it's too fast, but you know what? I'm just choosing to embrace it and continue to learn and grow myself. But yeah, if ever anyone feels overwhelmed, just know that even the top people in the world of AI, the people who created, these different LLMs, even they are overwhelmed and even
Mm.
they feel behind. So you just know you're not alone. We're all overwhelmed. So it's just
Hmm.
like, okay, take a deep breath. At the end of the day, we're fine and we just get to figure it out.
That is exactly right. I'm so glad that you said that because it's moving fast for every single one of us. So all we have to do is choose how we're going to embrace this or how we're going to react, I guess, rather than, lose the plot because it's not going to help you.
Well, that's just it. It's like it's not going away. That's why I always choose like I just have chosen to embrace it and I know that I don't need to know what's happening in every part. I mean, AI is so broad at this
Hmm.
point, and there's
Yeah.
another tool coming out every single day. So
Yeah.
I don't worry myself about all that and all the latest and greatest tools that do all these different things. I just bring it back to, okay, what is my vision? Just like before AI, what's my vision? Where am I now? And how can I work towards that vision and maybe even accelerate it thanks to AI? And so
Mm.
that's why I really love this focus on AI discoverability because I know that I mean, by the end of this year, I do believe this will be the hottest topic in AI. And I
Yeah.
think next year it will become more standard for people to already have things kind of set up for at least the schema format. And by the following year, it will be absolutely a mainstream standard. So right now we have this early adopter advantage, just like people who were early on with SEO. And so that's why I'm telling all my friends and colleagues and clients, I'm like, hey, at least be aware of this and I would do something about it because it's rare for us to have an early adopter advantage like
Yeah, because
this.
they don't come around very often, right? It's
Not as
the
big as this.
old, oh, I wish I had have invested in Facebook back in the day. Like these things, they're fleeting and they come and go very, very quickly.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. So I say, why not just at least start taking steps towards it, educate yourself. And now it's so easy to learn about it because we can just ask ChatGPT or Claude about it. Even if you just say, hey, tell me what, as this type of an entrepreneur, what do I absolutely need to know about AI discoverability?
Hmm.
And what are some initial steps I can take to set myself up for success? So that
Mm.
way you're at least taking steps towards it and not missing out
Yeah, totally.
on this window that we're in that's rapidly closing. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Not to freak anyone out. It's just
Oh,
reality. Yeah.
it's just reality. Yeah, exactly. So I would just, yeah, definitely take those steps.
Now, if we're thinking about our website like the old Dewey Decimal System, the old let's look at the cards and find the number for the book, how important is FAQs? How important is that in playing into this, making
Mhm.
sure that we're able to be discovered? Because the way that we interact with AI or an LLM, large language model, is that we're asking it questions. So
Mhm.
is the FAQs almost more important than just the information?
FAQs are fantastic. So again, it's helpful to have that in your schema code on the back end of your site. And you can have, I mean, you can have hundreds of FAQs, which is like on the back end. Glossaries are also great. So if there are terms that you use frequently in your content, in your area of expertise, then that's also super helpful. Success stories where someone shares a before, the transformation, and the after, also very helpful. Naming frameworks is helpful because sometimes, okay, let me just back up. One of my clients, she's in the functional medicine world,
Hmm.
and she said to me, okay, I do definitely want to make sure that I'm setting myself up for success, but a lot of my information isn't like I learned this and I apply it in my world, but it's not like I invented it. And it's, I bet AI already has information that's not, it's not unique to me.
Hmm.
And so I said, I was like, I hear you, right? I love that question. I said, but what is unique to you are your use cases, your success stories, your frameworks, your named frameworks. So if you haven't yet named a framework, then think about something that you have created where you've either taken yourself or a client through a process, reverse engineer it so you know the steps of it, and then give it a name,
Yep, yep.
because that way you are differentiating your framework from what else is out there.
Mm, love that. I mean, I've believed that for such a long time because it's that people remember you for. So there's so many other things over and above
Yeah.
AI, but that just adds another layer, right?
It does. Yeah. So yeah, so even before AI, naming your frameworks or philosophies, or maybe you take people through a very unique experience, it's really helpful to then differentiate yourself from others anyway, even from just a human to human standpoint. So I would say do that anyway. It's really helpful.
Yeah. So this GPT, the website audit that we were talking about before, you did mention that people can get access to this. I did the audit right before this interview because I just wanted to have a look. I highly recommend that you jump on this and do an audit because even if nothing else, it will show you where there's not consistency or where there's no clarity, all the things that Amy's been talking about. So, Amy, can you share where people can get access to this?
Yes. And so I'm happy to share the link with you. And then it's amyyamada.com/free dash tool forward slash.
And we'll
So
pop that in all the show
yeah.
notes below wherever you're
Yeah.
listening. What is one thing that you really want people to hear and take away from this conversation? They might be listening and go, "Oh, this isn't for me, or it doesn't apply to me, or it doesn't matter right now," or what message do you want to leave them with?
Yeah. I have a lot of conversations with entrepreneurs, and oftentimes entrepreneurs are busy people, right? Whether they're
Mm-hmm.
newer entrepreneurs or they're super established. I've been talking to a lot of super established experts. And so they'll say things to me like, okay, Amy, I know this is really important, but right now, and then tell me what they're working on. Right now, I'm in the middle of a book launch. Right now, I'm traveling with my family, or I've got some big thing. And so I really do understand that. I would just say take a step, just so you are familiar with what's happening, because there's never going to be a convenient time to
Hmm.
focus on this. And so if you just even take little bits of time on it each day or each week, then you can move the needle so that you can have your work be discoverable by AI. The other thing too is with the resource that I shared, even if you are rebuilding or refining a website, I would say still grab it, because once you have your website, then you can put your URL in it and it'll give you the feedback of what AI currently sees and what's a little bit fuzzy and what can be improved. Because a lot of times I'll talk to someone, and actually, you and I were talking about this earlier about how websites are never done, right? It feels like websites are
Yeah,
never done. Like you update it or you rebuild it or you rebrand it, and then 2 weeks later, you're like, oh, I should add that thing or I need to change that thing, So it always
absolutely.
feels like a never-ending story. But so even if you're in the middle of a pivot, I would say grab the tool. So once you have your human-facing website up and running, then you can just run it through this audit and then make some tweaks here and there and try not to overthink it. The other thing too is, like I said, it's rare, really rare for us to have an early adopter window of an opportunity. And so that's why I'm encouraging people to take steps to set yourself up for this visibility, because the long game is totally in your favor if you start now.
Mm.
And that's why whether people work with me or not, like I'm just shaking people like do something, like take a step, get your schema set up, start thinking about your content, making sure that you're being really consistent with the themes that you speak into. Something we encourage people to do is think about if you could choose three kind of quote unquote authority themes, what are those themes that are under your umbrella of your industry that you focus on? And then
Mm.
be consistent with your content as you continue to put it out there, because that clarity and consistency will take you really far. And then once you add that structured data, then you're set.
Mm. Can you give us, I know that you've created a lot of these discovery hubs for some amazing, amazing people. Can you give us an idea of those three kind of umbrella topics?
That's a great question. It's so funny because I've been so deep in the weeds that we've broken it down to so many subtopics for each of these people. Let's see. Okay, so if I'm thinking about the client that's focusing on functional medicine, we're in the process of working on hers. So hers may be gut health, supplements, and labs. She's always talking about labs, like what labs you need to do to get the results to find out what the root cause of your health issues are. So I'm just making this up. This isn't
Yeah,
totally
yeah, yeah,
accurate.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
What are like three main topics that you find yourself consistently talking about all the time,
So
right?
in the
So,
library, they're the big topics that are sitting on the top of the bookcase. It's the self-development, it's the nutritional food. It's my
yes.
head's so in the library now. Can you tell?
It's yeah, but that's such a great way to think about it though. And the good news is, I mean, a lot of us have been using ChatGPT and Claude and they have their memory on. So you can even ask it, just say, this is how I'd prompt it. If you were to pick three authority themes for me, what would they be? And see
Mm,
what it comes up with.
mm,
And it's a reflection of what you're chatting about all the time with the AI model that you use the most.
yeah.
So it can give you that reflection. And based on that reflection, you might want to make some adjustments to what you talk about all the time, right? You're like, actually, I really want to focus more on this. And the more specific you can be, I mean, that's where we're really getting into kind of these nooks and crannies of the global sphere. Like one thing I like to think about is if we want to find our real estate in that global sphere that these AI models have access to, let's find it and claim it, like so that AI continues to see us as the authority on that space, if that
Mm.
makes sense.
Do you know what I think is the most important thing I've taken from this?
Mm,
Is that as experts, we can't afford to have our voice drowned out because all of this language that goes into these LLMs, I think that as people are using them more, it's almost making some of the output a little bit more vanilla already. That's what I'm seeing. That we
yeah.
can't afford to have our voice drowned out, that we need to have our expertise in there. And that if we don't claim that space, it will die. That message eventually will just go, it will just get forgotten. And so it's
Yeah.
really important to keep it alive.
Absolutely. And something that, okay, there's a couple things that people frequently ask me. One of them is, okay, so they'll say, Amy, when I use Claude, I'm asking it questions and it's giving me answers to whatever I'm asking it about, but it doesn't always source where it's finding the answer. So if I have a Discovery Hub, for example, and it's pulling information from me, is it going to source me? And we don't have a way of monitoring that right now in
Mm,
these deep
mm-hmm,
conversations, right? However, AI is looking for the most ideal answer it can give the human.
mm-hmm.
So oftentimes, if it does not have the best answer, it makes stuff up, right? We've all seen it
Yeah, we've
hallucinate
seen that, right?
yes answers. Like, what is that? It doesn't want to do that, but it just doesn't have the information. So, what I've noticed is sometimes now with the current models, you ask it a question, and if it hasn't ingested information for a great answer, you'll see it searching, like it's like
Mm-hmm,
searching
mm-hmm,
websites. It's looking for trustworthy websites to provide the best answer, and then you'll see these little bubbles pop up to source who has provided the answer, right?
mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
So, like, I was thinking about like sporting events. So, say it's a football game, and somebody goes in for after watching a professional football game and saying, "Oh, tell me about that play or that thing that happened." And if AI hasn't yet ingested that most current news and information, it'll go searching and it'll say, "Okay, ESPN, CNN." It'll look for all these sources, and then it'll say, "Okay, here's what happened," and then have the little bubble, right? So
mm,
that's we want to get like our really like our entities, these micro pieces of content where we might not even remember exactly what we said and that we say often about something very specific within our
mm-hmm,
body of work. But that's where AI can start to see like, oh, this person has the answer and they have this whole library of information. So clearly they know what they're talking about. Plus, they have all these success stories. Plus, they've been featured in the media, plus, plus, plus. So it's more likely to then identify your body of work as the go-to for what your world is about. So,
yeah. The
yeah.
other thing that I picked up is that the people that are in my world, people that are in your world, if I was going to give it a very vanilla and very broad name, I would call them good people. They're people that are amazing at what they do. They're people that are soul led. They're people that are like truly, truly believe in their work. And if we don't put our name out there, people that don't fall in that same category of good people will be found there.
Yeah.
So if we sit on this, someone's going to take that space. It's just, is it going to be us? We know we're good people, or is it going to be someone that maybe isn't quite under that same umbrella?
Right. I mean, and again, some of this is not new to just this. It's even when you hear from someone who is a good person, they're like, "Oh man, I know I'm really good at what I do, and yet I still feel like the world's best kept secret." And
Mm.
then this guy over here who's
Yeah, this guy.
this guy, right? That guy who is not great and their information is not sourced and they don't know what they're talking about or they're not as good as what I would
Mm-hmm.
deliver. They're, out there making millions and selling all
Mm-hmm.
these things and they get frustrated. And it's like, well, it all does come down to visibility and getting in front of your ideal client. That hasn't changed.
Yeah.
It's just now the world is changing and where people are getting their answers, right? It's not just website, it's answers they're looking for. We must be seen in the answers.
Amy, thank you so much for coming onto the show and talking about this topic. It's really important. It's probably going to be superseded in 12 months, and we'll be like, oh, how cute. Remember when we talked about that topic?
Yeah.
But right now, it's super relevant, and thank you for explaining it in a way that was exceptionally easy to understand.
Oh, you're so welcome. I love having these conversations. I think it's really exciting. And at the heart of it all, what lights me up is authenticity.
Mm,
And so even with this work, I know sometimes people are like, wow, you're like into authenticity and deep human connection, and then you're deep in AI, which sometimes can seem like opposite ends of the
hmm.
spectrum. However, we're so committed to amplifying authentic work, authentic messaging, authentic voices that need to be amplified. And so this is another way that we get to do that is to really influence these AI models and make sure that those who have like spent their life's work on something that they're passionate about, that they continue to be seen and
Mm.
are connected with the right humans ultimately.
Thank you so much for all you do. Thank you so much for being in my world, and thank you so much for being on the show today.
Thank you so much, Samantha. And I hope this has been helpful for everyone tuning in.